nice. Better get right, champion. I'm a team. If you talking and talk to me nice, I play with all of my life. You see my name in the lights. Better get right, champion.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to YSN Live for this Monday, the 27th of January, 2025. Cooking our way through the new year. And so we got so much to talk about today. First thing we got to do before we get to our guest, we got to tell you about Anthony. We've received so many responses. We've received so many questions. So Anthony, if you didn't tune in on Friday, Anthony literally at the witching hour of noon kind of said, hey, I'm going to be out. I might be a little late. And then just didn't show up after the show, trying to get a little intel, make sure our little buddy's all right. And certainly got some news that kind of stunned us. And Anthony goes into the hospital and with some kidney issues. So I know that he's getting out or supposedly getting out today. So he's on the road to recovery. So everybody that's out there that, said a prayer for him or was thinking of him during that time, thank you. Thank you so very much. We all know how much Anthony does and what he means to not only YSN, but to each individual school or district or community around the YSN network. So we're so grateful and so honored that you thought of him during that time. And hopefully our dude will be back here before too long. We're going to let him rest up as much as he needs because that's a traumatic situation that he went through this weekend. And God love him. He still came out on the other end smelling like a rose because his Chiefs ended up winning that game somehow. And by somehow, I mean the referees. I think we all know that. But Ant, we hope you're doing well. We miss you. We love you. And certainly we will see you soon right here on YSN Live. And again, thank you for all your thoughts, prayers, and outreach towards Anthony, his family, during this time. He's going to be all right, baby. He's still kicking. All right. It is time to bring in one of my favorite guests ever. And I mean, ever. A guy that I've grown very close to over the years, a guy that believes in not only our product, but believes in the young ladies on his team and the community that he represents. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best dressed men in the entire area, especially on the YSN network. He is the leader of the South Range Lady Raider basketball team, Jeff Fishel. What's up, buddy?
Man, thanks for the intro. I wasn't gonna wear a suit tonight, but I feel like now I got to rush to the dry cleaner and get something for tonight to wear.
Well, let's start there, okay? Because for those people who've never really understood why, walk me through the suit selection. I mean, obviously, it's something that you kind of inherited through the years. You want to dress to impress. How did the suits and the suit selection become a thing for Jeff Fishel?
Yeah, and first of all, DJ, I just want to echo your sentiments about Anthony. So happy to hear that he's on the road to recovery, and hopefully you're tuned in. I tell you, South Range Nation was blowing everybody's phone up, worried about you and praying for you. So keep recovering, and we look forward to seeing you soon. But Tyler Bates, who used to be the coach at Loudonville, him and I were buddies. And Loudonville's red and white school colors, and he came out his first game in this all red suit, and I loved it. And so I was like, man, I'm getting an all burgundy suit, and wore that I think the first home game that I ever coached in here. And I remember I did like the Superman thing where in warm-ups I didn't have it on, and then when we went to talk, I went in the locker room and changed in the office and came out, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" and kind of went crazy, and just kind of built from there. And anybody that knows me, I like to be a little bit ridiculous, so get online and find the craziest things I can get.
We've seen some ridiculous suits over the years. Do I recall a cowboy hat at one point being worn on the sidelines?
Cowboy hat one game. We played Niles that game, and believe it or not, that was a request from their players that they wanted to see me do something ridiculous for their game. So it comes from everybody. But yeah, there was a cowboy hat. Now, I wasn't going to coach the game in the cowboy hat, but everybody asked me to. So again, I did it. Ridiculous.
Big fan of that. There's also the Christmas outfits that you use. We kind of detailed during the Christmas, right before Christmas. You had they were green pants, but they were like, what were they? They were corduroy, velvet.
Yeah,
velvet pants, and the beautiful coat, the beautiful jacket as well. So do you ever feel like you get a lot of laughs, you get a lot of attention for that, which is awesome. We love it. But do you ever like you ever draw the line? Have you ever had a moment where you're like, no, I'm not doing this?
yeah. The one thing that I don't like is sometimes it feels like if I wear a crazy suit, it's like I'm trying to draw the attention to myself, and I never want to take the attention away from my girls. So, there are certain times and situations where, I want to make sure that that's not the case. But honestly, I think when I wear a suit, it gets our girls excited. They know it's a big game. They understand what's happening, and it's something that they enjoy. So, definitely don't want to cross that line of taking the attention off of them.
And you're a guy that draws a lot of attention naturally on your own because of the kind of coach you are, because of what you've gone through, and certainly the resume that you present. But like you said, you always point that finger right back to your team, your community. A very interesting year this year for you, and the realm of you only have one senior. You have CC Foster, and you guys have kind of, and we talked about it, having to build that plane in the air kind of deal. CC being a great, sharpshooter from the outside, but you've had to really kind of play hot potato with leadership from that standpoint. And then you have a different leader seemingly on every single night. What is that like as a coach to have to pass around the leadership stick, and not have that one everyday leader that every time you go out, they're going to have, the most points, the most assists, the most steals, whatever it be, and fill up that stat sheet. You kind of share the rock and you share the limelight.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, to be honest, because, we've been more balanced in scoring this year, which has been helpful. We've had different girls step up at different times that won us games. And like you said, you never quite know where it's going to come from on a given night. But the other side of that is it's a little bit frustrating because we're inconsistent, and we don't have the one or two girls that every night, we know we can just go to. And some of it's not their fault. It's how we get defended and how different flows of games go. But we pass that leadership around, and it gets frustrating because, again, we don't know where it's going to come from. But I think for the rest of the season, and like you said, we're younger, going into the future, it'll pay big dividends.
I mean, are there benefits to having, it's anybody's game kind of going into it? I mean, everybody wants to be, 26 a game and have 10 rebounds, double, that stuff. But it's a scenario, and you've had those players on your team, but is it kind of refreshing almost to say, okay, this is anybody's game? Who's going to step up and take this? And how does that help you from a standpoint of, other people having to plan for this particular South Range Raider team?
I think that's a big benefit, is it makes us difficult to scout. If somebody watches 3 different films on us, we may have 3 different leading scorers, 3 different leading rebounders, 3 different girls bringing the ball up the court. So it's kind of hard for them to prepare for, okay, what is South Range going to do tonight? Where is their strength going to be? Which makes us hard to prepare for sometimes. So, it can definitely be a benefit. But again, we have to have girls step up every night.
One of the coolest things that I saw the last time you guys took the floor, home floor, was you brought so much energy to the floor. And as it was almost the more energy that you brought on the sideline, the more energy was conveyed on the floor. Did you feel that during the game? And were you mindful of, okay, I've got to be able to bring the juice tonight if I want to be able to walk out and beating Struthers by 2 points?
Well, give the girls credit for that, because my energy came from their energy. And we're always a better basketball team when it's that way. If I'm the one that has to bring the energy first to get them to play, then we don't play as well. So, I thought against Struthers, we came out with the right energy, played with some great intensity on defense, and then kept our composure when things didn't look real well for them. So that always gives me energy to kind of push them a little bit further, but proud of the girls, that came from them.
Let's talk about this conference, the NE8. Obviously, people look at it and they say, hey, this is a football conference, but it's seemingly just a conference that has an elite amount of talent in it. in every sport. When you look at this year, it's been usually the NE8 is a 2-horse race in some capacity. It is really anybody's conference this year. When you were, looking at it going into the year, the preseason preview, I guess, were you aware that it was kind of all hands on deck and it could be anybody's conference if you play your cards right?
Yeah, I remember when we did the season preview, we talked about that, and Nick Blanche and I at Poland have talked about that behind the scenes. Like this is wide open, and I kind of said like it would not surprise me if the last place team in the league beats the first place team in the league, and then somebody in the middle beats somebody, and then somebody that they lost to beats them, and it's crazy. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happened. Any night, literally, and it's not cliche, any given night, anybody can beat anybody in this league. And I kind of get upset because everybody says, oh, look at the NE8, this team's record, and it must not be that good. The fact of the matter is that we're all good enough to beat each other, and this is a really strong conference. 6 of the 7 teams are at 500 or 1 game under right now in overall. And in the NE8, nobody backs down from a strong schedule. So everybody's playing a strong schedule. And I think we're all battling some consistency issues, but I think this is a conference that can put some teams in the tournament that can make some runs because it's definitely a deep conference.
I always think it's interesting how coaches and how staffs manage, injuries and they manage sickness because winter sports, unlike any other, you get illness because, of the holidays, because everything goes around that time of year, hot and cold, all that stuff. How do you not overcompensate or blame yourself or point fingers to you or your staff whenever injuries happen? We saw, the flu bug kind of went around and your players played through it. Some of them had to miss some time. How do you, kind of facilitate when, you're shorthanded?
Well, we're not going to use it as an excuse. Every team has battled the flu and injuries. We've played games with key players down, and we've played games where the opponent had key players down. So I think one of the things that, is important is your preparation at practice. Nobody roots for adversity, but you have to expect it. And if you're able to expect it, you can deal with it a little bit better. And you look back and like you said, you don't want to blame yourself. There are certainly some situations where we had some lineups on the floor the past few games that hadn't been together. And that's kind of our fault as a coaching staff. But like you said, we're getting text messages an hour before the game from girls who say, hey, I'm sick, I can't come tonight. And you don't have time to prepare. And so everybody has to rally together. It's next girl up and, no excuses.
Since you took over, since you mentioned practices, how have practices changed over the years of you being the lead dog? Have you been able to, as you get older, are you less of a barker, or is it a situation where you just have seen more and experienced more, and now you understand how to handle the girls, whatever that case may be?
I haven't figured it out, honestly. And I don't know that anybody does. I think every year is a different group of girls. So, it's different chemistry lessons that you have to teach every year. And some girls react one way to, me yelling and being a little bit mean. And some react better if I'm nice and calm. And you gotta figure out how they react individually. And then kind of from a team personality standpoint, like you got to figure out as well, how does everybody react? They can sense the coach's moods, and that kind of dictates the focus at practice sometimes. So every year is different. Honestly, every practice is different, just depending on, what happened that day and who we played last game, who we played next game. So it's a daily lesson.
You were a big hooper back in the day. Who do you draw your coaching influences from?
I have so many. I'm afraid to answer the question because somebody's going to get mad at me that I left them out. Coach McHugh was my coach when I played here, and so much of the success in my life I owe to him. I learned more about life from Coach than I did basketball. But appreciate him, and him and I are still good friends, and always great to see him. Bert Stellers is the guy that when I was helping him when he was a junior high coach, that, he's one of the smartest basketball minds around. So just what I learned from him and the patience he took with me over 4 years of coaching with him to teach me Those two are really important. Coach Purins gave me my first high school job. Coach Cullen, when he was here, just the things that he meant to me and the opportunities that he gave me to grow. But the list goes on and on. There's just that's what coaching is. It's kind of, you put everybody in one big family and they take care of each other. So that's why I love the game of basketball. Is I've had so many good people around me that have invested in me and cared about me.
How did you like to be coached when you were a player?
I like to be yelled at. I like to know when I wasn't doing things the right way, or maybe my head was out where it shouldn't be, and so that always kind of woke us up.
One of the things that I admire most about you is the fact that you love the community that you serve. The South Range community is so very important to you, vital to you. It's done so much for you, and you continue to give back at every opportunity you can. Why does South Range mean so much to you, and why do you have that burgundy suit and that golden tie?
I was born and raised here. I remember when I was a kid, when people would ask me, like, who's your favorite football team or who's your favorite basketball team? I would always say the Raiders. Whenever I talk football, like, Oakland or Los Angeles or whatever. No, South Range. Like, it was a treat for me growing up on Friday nights. My mom would take me to the football games and take me to the basketball games. And, I remember buying the program and, so many things, so many records that are in the program, football and basketball, I used to be able to memorize, and I could rattle off South Range sports history, probably better than anybody. And it just, went to school here, and the teachers and everybody that just cared about you. If you needed something, they were there for you, always had your best interest at heart, and, made me so much of the person that I am today. And, it's so important then to pay that forward. Like, now I'm in the role of I can pay back, and, I can give back. And so, because everybody did that for me, I think that's the only way to live life, is to keep paying that forward.
All right, since I know you're a huge sports fan, as well as being a head ball coach on the sidelines, I got to ask you, there's nights, and with no specifics, I don't know, specifics, I guess. I know there's another word for it, but I can't pronounce it. When it comes to officiating, we saw last night the situation in Kansas City. The officials are never going to be right. How do you handle officials, especially given the official shortage, that maybe blew a call, but you want to show grace in those moments because you don't want to set the tone for your team or hurt yourself along the way?
Well, now that I've been coaching so long, I know most of the officials. They know me. I take pride in the fact that I've never had a technical. And some of our parents get on me like, why didn't you get fired up there? Why didn't you get a technical? But the refs do a good job. You're always going to have 50% of the people agree with the call and 50% of you disagree with the call. Either way. So you always just try to give them grace. I think they know sometimes when it's a bad call, and if you don't say anything to them, they appreciate that. And then sometimes you just got to give them a little nudge, like, hey, I think you missed that one, or same thing happened down here and you didn't call it against them, but you called it against us down here. Like, we gotta look at that, and you got to get this thing figured out, because we got to call it the same on both ways. And you just present it in a professional way. And then I always like to make a joke with them. Like, I can't believe I called a timeout to call this play. Like, no way we're going to execute this. And, they'll look at me after we make a bucket and like, good one, coach. So, just it's those little moments in between the whistles that you can kind of get them to understand what you're thinking.
Let's get off the floor for a minute. When you think of Super Bowl, obviously you think of snacks and food and all kinds of stuff, tailgating. What are some of your tailgating and your snack go-tos? Not necessarily for your games, but when you're watching some on TV or streaming.
Typical pizza and wings. You can't go wrong there. Jalapeno poppers are one of my favorites. Fried mozzarella sticks, another great one. And, maybe a couple cold Diet Cokes too.
Sure. The Diet Cokes. That's usually what I'm thinking too. I also hear that you have quite the atmosphere in your own homestead when it comes to watching some games. Explain to me why the man cave is so important to you.
Honestly, it's my sanctuary. I've always enjoyed a good man cave ever since I was younger. And, when we built our house and had the opportunity to build a nice one, I wanted to make sure we did that. So, yeah, a bar down there, 3 big screen TVs, all the sports you can imagine. It's a place to go escape, at night and put on a game or two and sit there and relax. And, now my kids are older and they love coming down there and hanging out and making some noise. And I got to kick them out every once in a while if they get too loud. But, yeah, it's a good place to watch a game. That's for sure.
Got to see your kids the other night. They're growing like weeds, dude. They're already taller than I am, which isn't saying much, but good enough for you, naturally. Last question I have for you. Speaking of family, I know family incredibly important to you. Walk me through, growing up as Jeff Fischel and some of the people that you admired and the influencers that you look to and the people that made you who you are today.
Well, it starts with mom and dad. Their parents that when I was younger, I didn't always get what I wanted, but I always got what I needed. And there were times where, I was fortunate enough that I did get some of the things that I wanted. So, military dad, hard discipline, and made sure I was raised the right way, and loving and caring mom that always was nurturing to me and make sure that I was okay. And, so much of my personality and how I go about my daily life comes from mom and dad. So really, DJ starts and stops with them.
How has that great childhood that you had made you a better dad today for your kids?
Well, you learn lessons, you think back, and, it's hard as a parent. And as parents, always, you'll find out one day, you'll understand one day. And, as you become a parent, you get that, and so it helps you kind of relay the message to your kids. Like, and you understand that when you were a kid, how hard it was for your parents to discipline you and make sure you were doing the things the right way. And you didn't always understand it as a kid, but it makes it important as a parent now, just make sure you're doing the same things for your kids.
Jeff, you're a guy that I admire so much, not only on the floor, but off the floor, especially on the golf course. One of my favorite partners in the world ever when we go out to outings. Thank you so much for all you do for not just the South Range community, for the basketball community and everybody here at YSN, my friend.
And that is nothing to do with how crooked I can drive a golf ball. It may be something to do with how crooked I can drive a golf cart, though.
That's it.
I appreciate you guys. Yep, thank you so much. And keep healing up. We'll see you soon, DJ. Love you guys. Appreciate everything you do.
See you tonight, Coach.
All right.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Fischel, again, one of the best you're ever going to meet. Nobody cares more. Nobody cares more about that community more than that guy right there. And just has always had an affinity towards what we're trying to accomplish here at YSN, and always has time after the game, before the game, whenever. When we have a question or when we need to post, a word or a quote or whatever it may be. And even in times like this, Jeff Fischel always making time for us. And we're so grateful for that. As we make our shift towards the next topic here at YSN, well, we don't have to go far because we already talked about kind of the Super Bowl and what's going to happen here in the next 2 weeks. We're going to hear a lot about the Eagles. You're going to hear a lot about the Chiefs. You're going to hear a lot about three-peats. And potential three-peats and potential dynasties. But let's break down what happened yesterday. And one of the things that I wanted to get in with this with Coach Fischel was there is a lot of talk about officiating right now. And whether it went well for your team or not well, or you want to talk about it, I mean, it's out there. It's lexicon naturally for everybody right now. And it's on the top of everybody's tongue and talking about officiating. And what I got to tell you is the officiating, when you think about some of the hardest jobs in sports, what I'm going to tell you, this top 3 is an athletic director, a coach, and an official. That's where it begins and ends. I mean, general managers, that's more of a business, right, side of things. When you look at what general managers, and now they're incorporating general managers into college, general managers are more professional. When you're a professional, it's more of a business and stuff like that. When you're talking about high school and you're talking about youth sports, you're talking about coaches, athletic directors, and officials. And you can kind of flex athletic directors for essentially commissioners or whatever it may be, like your league I don't know, owner, commissioner. I don't know what they call it. They get directors, all different names now. But that's kind of where it is. And what we're seeing is kind of the same token that we've been talking about for the longest time, is what you see on TV is how you react in high school settings and amateur settings and youth settings. So if you see people booing and being frustrated at officials on TV, like you saw yesterday, like you're going to see on social media all day today, there's a lot of people that will point to and start getting frustrated in real time with these guys and gals that are making $60 to $75 per game to make sure that that game takes place. I want to repeat that. $60 to $75 per game to make sure that game takes place. Because let's face it, folks, and I think a lot of this gets lost in translation. A lot of this gets lost over time. If there are no officials to officiate games, there are no games. If there are no officials to officiate games, there are no games. And I think that we've talked about this a time or two before on the Power Hour or on Running Point or just YSN in general. What you need to understand is if there are no officials, if you boo the officials out of the building, if you abuse the officials, if you abuse the coaches, if you abuse the athletic directors, the league directors, the league commissioners, whatever it may be, I don't see too many people raising their hand to volunteer to take their place. I don't. So many great coaches have been run out of their communities, of their district, because politics. My kid's not playing. They got to go. Listen, there are outliers. I'm not going to sit here and say indefinite that every coach is great, every official is great, no, there are outliers that do take politics into consideration, and there are frustrating leaders, coaches, directors, officials. Certainly, I've certainly done my share of questioning all three of those people, if not more. But what I can tell you is that as I grow up, I understand. Without those people, what we're trying to do, the thing that we love so much, sports, it's not feasible. It's not possible. I'm not telling you that you need to lay off. I'm not telling anybody that they need to lay off of anything, but I'm saying maybe in the back of your mind, maybe understand a little bit more about the officials, the coaches, and the athletic directors, the administrators, the commissioner, whatever they may be. Again, administration. Let's just put it there and make it easier. Understand that nobody's getting rich off of doing this in youth sports or high school. Not one of those niche verticals are getting rich off of doing this. And I said $60 to $75. That's probably on the high side. You know, you got $25 for youth officials, $50 for youth officials, whatever it may be, for them to put up with a heap load of bullcrap that you got to say. I mean, you've got people that don't even understand the game of basketball. I've been in situations where nobody understood. There was one party that didn't understand why the other team kept getting 3 points or 2 points. They didn't understand the game of basketball. They didn't understand what I mean by that is essentially they didn't have the comprehension of the game, the understanding of the game. They didn't take time to even appreciate the game enough to understand that the game is scored in 2 and 3 point segments. Inside the arc, outside the arc. They thought that the officials were cheating because they were giving 3 points instead of 2 or instead of 1. We've become a society just of people that want to blast, right? Without even having a common understanding for what we're blasting. It's easier to be negative. And what I'm going to tell you is we have to start building an appreciation. It's just as much as we have an appreciation for little Joey that plays that game, or little Tommy, or little Susie, or whoever it may be. We have to have an appreciation for the people that are willing to teach our sons, our daughters, the game. And that's not just coaches. That's administrators. that's officials, because I've seen so many times an official have that mention. Coach Fischel talked about the quick mentionings back and forth, right? When he's not going to show somebody up, an official up, but he's going to bring attention to it. How many times in a youth game have you seen an official say something to a player and it has nothing to do with the rules of it, or maybe it does, but understanding that, hey, maybe the next time you do that, I'm going to call a whistle on you, just be aware. Or, hey, you're not using your legs enough. Stuff like that. There's a lot of officials out there that'll help. That'll help a player, a student athlete, do that. And that's important. It's incredibly important, because sometimes the coach is dealing with 8, 10, 15 players, and he doesn't have time necessarily, or she doesn't have time necessarily, or doesn't see something, and an official could bring that to their attention. And yet they'll never, ever get any credit for it. There are good officials out there. There are people that are officials that understand that if they don't raise their hand, there will not be games being played. We're coming up on spring, which umpires are incredibly in need. Lower now than ever are the list of umpires that are readily available, because I believe from a stat standpoint, umpires get yelled at more than anybody in the sporting world, because there's every pitch, there's an argument, ball, strike, out. It's and I understand it. And it's been brought to our attention of, hey, we need help getting more umpires. I think the biggest help can be if we have some awareness as fans, parents, media, that not everything's going to be the official's fault. Not everything is going to be the official's fault. The 4th and 1 stuff last night that you saw for the Bills, did I get frustrated? Absolutely. But here's the thing. There's 3 chances during that drive, during that specific sequence, for them to score a first down. There's opportunities during games to advance the ball, to score, to get first downs, to score runs, to move runners, set picks, whatever it may be. There's multiple opportunities, and I'm talking hundreds of opportunities during games to affect the score, and yet we continue to circle one of them and point to it and say, this is why we lost, or this is why my team lost, or this. It's never my team lost because they couldn't convert or because they couldn't get the job done. It's the officials held the team back. That narrative needs to go away. Needs to go away. Think about how you would feel, just a general human being that loves sports, if every time you went out to the court, the field, wherever, and you were getting paid, but essentially you're volunteering. It's not like you're going to be able to, build a 401k based on your youth umpiring or youth officiating. Every time that you walked away from the court, the field, the floor, whatever, you had somebody in your ear saying you screwed their kid over. How much can you take? If you're a coach, and this is the one that bothers me the most, I'll be dead honest with you, because we have some great coaches. I've said that before. We are so very lucky that we have so many great coaches in this area. When a coach is confronted and has been told or is told, you ruined it for my kid because he's not playing or she's not playing or she's not scoring enough. I mean, that's the frustrating point. Coaches are not in the game to get rich. They're not even in it necessarily for fame. They're in it because they love the game and they want to give back to it. They want to show leadership in their community. We have so many great coaches, and they take so much garbage because someone's kid isn't scoring enough. So there's a couple options out there. Pay for lessons. Hold your son or daughter accountable, heaven forbid, right? Are they putting in the time in practice, after practice, before practice to get the playing time they need, to get the points that they want or you want necessarily? It's not the coach's fault. If your kid's not hitting free throws, you can't blame that on the coach. Can't blame that on the referee or the official. Hell, you can't even blame that on the league director. We're in a really interesting time in youth sports, in high school sports, because everybody wants that participation trophy. Everybody wants that championship banner. But very few are willing to go after it and work for it. Are there coaches that mail it in? There are. Are there officials that mail it in? There are. Are there administrators that mail it in? There are. Are there kids and student athletes that mail it in? There absolutely are. You're probably thinking of one right now. And everybody has a case that little Johnny's mom or dad knows somebody, contributes in some way that gets them playing time over your kid. There's some conspiracy out there that somebody's got it better than your kid. Well, they're a senior, and that's the only reason. Be patient. There are life lessons all over sports. All over sports. Life lessons. Tattooed all over sports. I saw a commercial the other day that said some of the greatest female leaders in our time all played sports. Love it. There are so many different lessons to learn from playing sports. But we've got to be able to learn from those lessons. We've got to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, it's not the fault of the official. It's not the fault of the coach. It's not the fault of the administrator, the league coordinator, the league director, the athletic director. It's not their fault. My kid or I have not provided enough time or resources to getting better, and that's why. It has nothing to do with the traveling violation that happened 2 minutes into the game. Has nothing to do with that. Can't blame the official for losing the game if you traveled 2 minutes in. There's 4 quarters to be played. 2 halves, whatever it may be in college. We got to get better. We have to get better. Folks, I'm being dead serious with you. I beg you. Do not put it all on the officials. Do not put it all on the coaches. Have some accountability for yourself, for your student athlete, your player, whoever it may be. Have that accountability. And I'm not saying because they're not endangered. There's a shortage. Would you want to take other people's crap? From that standpoint, you go out and you put it on the line. Obviously, you're out there. Bright lights are on. If you make a mistake, everybody sees it. And like Coach Official said, at best case scenario, you have 50% of the people that like you in that gym. You have 50% of the people that like you in that stadium. At best, you might as well run for president. That's how it is. It's incredible. Awareness and accountability. We need to start wearing them like we want to wear those participation trophies. Got to start wearing awareness and accountability. We have to do better. I see so many critics out there that don't understand situations, that just sit there and point and put the finger in somebody else's face. That coach coaches too hard. The coach coaches too soft. That athletic director's lazy. The league commissioner just wants money. The officials want this kid to win because they work at the same building. Come on. Really? It takes you more time to come up with these conspiracy theories than it does to just be accountable and say, hey, my kid needs to get better at the free throw line. Hey, my kid can't hit from outside. My kid can't hit a curveball. And work on them with that instead of pointing to somebody else and saying, I'm going to burn your house down so my house can be taller. It's not how we do it. It's not how it should be done. That is how we do it, unfortunately. It's not how it should be done. That's it. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. I didn't want to get preachy. I didn't. But, man, I'm sick and tired of seeing it. Like, Bills get better. Browns get better. I mean, look, who's your team? Get better. Unless you're a Chiefs fan or an Eagles fan, they all got to get better. Let's get better for the officials. Let's get better. Let's understand the rules for the officials. Understand what a coach is going through. Help them out. What do you need? Maybe they need, hey, if you wouldn't mind, bring in some snacks or something, or help me out and just make sure that, there's a one point of contact so we can send out a message and everybody gets it. Stuff like that. Whatever it is, help out, raise your hand. Because you can't sit there and be the first one to raise your hand when something goes wrong if you're not willing to help out and make things go right. My 2 cents. Let's get to, not that I haven't preached enough already, let's get to the Joe Dickey Electric. My voice is shot as well, so we got to get out of here. Let's get to the Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Presented by Joe Dickey Electric. They are everything electrical. You can visit them on the web 24/7, 365 at DickeyElectric.com. This one's going to be real easy. It all comes down to how much, and we kind of touched on this at the beginning of the show, how much I appreciate everybody for looking after our very own Anthony Hartwig, who was in the hospital this past weekend, dealing with some stuff. And it sounds like he's coming out. Sounds like he's slowly but surely getting back into the swing of things and feeling better. So thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for thinking, praying, sending messages to Anthony. I know they helped out. I know he got a kick out of all of that stuff. Again, Ant, I know you're watching. We miss you. We love you. I especially cannot wait to have you on YSN Live very soon. And take your time, get well, get back to full health, and then we'll obviously get you cranking it up like you were better than anybody has ever done it. So thank you to all of you for your well wishes, your outreach, all for Anthony Hartwig, our dear friend here and our brother here at YSNLive.com. Big show tomorrow. We'll keep you updated, but we got a lot on the network tonight, 10 plus games on the network. So head on over to YSNLive.com/live to have a full just breakdown of every single game that we have on the network each and every night. And certainly make sure that you're flipping around. There's a lot of good games going for you. As a matter of fact, before we break, let me give you an outlook because I'm not sure they're on the site yet. I'm just going to give you the games. Lisbon at Valley Christian. We have that at 5:30, it looks like. So we also have at the 6 o'clock hour, tentatively, we have Niles and Poland. That one might be up in the air because Anthony was supposed to cover that one. Brookfield at LeBray. Austin Rowe, our newest announcer, is going to cover that. We also have Lake Catholic at Louisville. Rob Johnson, the voice of the Leopards, will have it. Lakeview at South Range. You heard me earlier. I've got that one covered for you. Elwood City at Mohawk. Eric Hughes will take that. We also have DK Kotzel covering Mineral Ridge and Ursuline. That one is at 7 o'clock. Struthers and Hubbard, Zach Svensson and Johnny Reyes have that. Dom Pearson has United at Southern Local. Dom O'Brien has Warren JFK at Girard. We also have Wellsville at Columbiana, where Joe Eusebio will have that one for us. So a full slate on the docket for tonight. We wish you a great Monday, a great start to your week, and we will see you tomorrow on the YSN Live broadcast right here every day at noon, only on your Sports. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sports Network. For stories, stats, and more, go to ysnlive.com.